Welcome. It's story time with Adam and Kalub. This week, the Hateful Eight. What's up? First thoughts.
Well, first thought, I didn't finish the movie.
Okay.
I think I'm like 40 minutes in or something like
Yeah.
that. It's like a 2 hours and 40 minutes
Yeah.
movie or something
Yeah.
like that. So far, it looks really fucking good.
Oh, wait. You're not 40. There's no way you're 40 minutes in. The second... Sorry, keep going. Sorry. Just keep going.
I just like most things about it.
I'm the sheriff of Red Rock. I love the character. I'm the sheriff of Red Rock.
That guy...
And if you leave me to die, that's murder.
Who is the British guy? The hangman?
Oswald of the Hangman. Oswald Mowbray.
Isn't he the... That's not the guy from...
He's been in a lot of movies.
What was it? We watched it before.
Pulp Fiction?
It's the Nazi one? Or it's... Oh no. Was it Django? Was he in Django?
Yeah, and he was in Pulp Fiction. The diner scene?
Was he the German guy?
No.
Oh, he was the guy in the diner, right?
In Pulp Fiction, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I thought he was the German guy for some reason.
Oh, no. But yeah, what else do you think about it?
I like how it's just all these fucking people that are very famous just meeting.
They're not famous, but keep going.
Well, like...
They're known.
Everyone they introduce in the beginning is like
known.
I
know you, yeah.
And I like that none of them remember each other either.
Oh, okay.
From like past interactions.
Yeah.
It's like we had dinner, dude.
Yeah. So this is honestly going on to a whole nother thing. I think the easiest way to get into film is to watch Tarantino films. Because he just makes them so easy to be enjoyable, and then it's so easy to go into more detail about, like, this film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense? So, this film, if you watch The Thing with the original Kurt Russell, or is it Kurt Russell, the guy who plays, John the Hangman, who has chained to the girl? He played in The Thing.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking like another movie or something.
Okay, well, yeah, in that movie, this film is an homage to that film, and so I still need to watch that film to understand this film more. But it's okay. So I've just watched it so many times; it's so interesting. So what I noticed this time is that the movie could be separated into a lot of different things. The first like half of it is completely legal within a traditional American country where everything that they're doing, they're yelling the N-word, right? They're killing people inside that. I don't know how far you get, but they're killing people all within the legal boundaries, right? But as soon as I forgot what happens. Oh, as soon as someone poisons the coffee, right? Oh, I probably shouldn't spoil it.
I know about that.
Okay, so someone poisons the coffee. Like, it becomes a murder fest. It becomes literally like a Brian De Palma, like Carrie blood film. And there's blood everywhere. And so that's why I like this film. It's like, it's this old Western of these kind of crime people, and you get the worst 8 people ever in this time period, sort of. Not the guy who's like the driver and stuff like that, but for the most part, these are the worst 8 people you could find, and you put them in a building, right? And what was the last thing you said? What was the last thing you said right before that?
It kind of devolves into just a murder fest.
I forgot where I was going with that. But I don't know, I just really like it, and just like each character, and like how like the Lincoln letter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just little things like that, and then like the I don't know, like the extended version. The reason I never watched the extended version until this time, and I like it more because the idea you get from the movie is like it felt like a play. Does it make sense? It felt like sort of like the movie I'm doing. It just felt like a play, that you could do this in a play. While the extended version, it felt way more like a film. Does it make sense? And it felt way more atmospherical, and you could understand their relationship more. Like, I don't know. Do you ever get to the guy who's sitting down? Did you find out what about him?
The general?
Yeah. And he was the general for, like, the Confederate Army. Yeah, you find out that the Major Marquess literally he held a gun to his boy, makes sense, naked, and made him walk for miles. Make sense? Do you watch that?
I've seen that clip, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and then he makes him blow him, right? And to the point where, because you put a gun right next to him, right? Because they all agreed, we had to get rid of all the guns. Like, once they realized Daisy was gonna was teamed up with them, you know what I mean? Kurt Russell, he's like, I think she's doing something, or she's teamed up with one of them, and she's like, I'm in cahoots with the. Did you see that scene? Okay, well, yeah, she makes a big joke. She's like, if you ask, or what did they say? Like, oh, what do you think about this, Daisy, or something like that? And she's like, you're right, I'm in cahoots with the 4 other men in here, and he's like she's taunting him and stuff like that. You guys caught us, blah blah blah. And so he gets mad because she's acting like that, and he takes all the guns, right? And so during this time, Major Marquess puts a gun down next to him, and then he tells his whole story on how he put a gun to his boy and made him walk and blew him. And then he pulls out the gun and he shoots him, or the old guy is about to shoot Major Marquess, and then he shoots back and kills the old guy. And what I'm trying to say is that, like, once again, it's just a self-defense thing, in which they literally walked out and they're like, they had an argument on the legality, on whether or not that was legal. And I don't know, I just like that. I just like how it was like that, and like how he was saying the N-word, and at no point was he offended, you know what I mean? It's just that, like, that's how they talked and how they, you know what I mean? Yeah. I just like stuff like that. And it was like, what else did they do within the legal bounds? I don't know, they did something else where they're trying to be, like, really legal and stuff. I'm like, why am I noticing this now? It was just really weird.
Yeah. Was that guy actually a sheriff?
You don't find out. That's, okay, so can I tell you the end?
Sure. Okay,
this is the coolest part, okay? They kill everyone, right? It's only Daisy de Amargue, Marquise, whatever, the big black guy, and the sheriff, right? And the guy passed. So right now, he got shot in the balls. I should have said that. The black guy. So now he's bleeding out on the couch, right? He's like, the sheriff is about to kill her. I forgot why. He's just about to kill her, and then he's like, wait. He's like, a bullet's too easy for this bitch. And then he's like, John Ruth got her. And he's like, when John Ruth gets you, you know what I mean? You hang, right? And so the sheriff, technically, it was within the legal bounds, because the sheriff himself hangs her in the middle of the thing. They put a rope around her neck and they hang her, right? While there's blood everywhere, and they just watch her get hung there. That's it, and that's where it ends. And then they read the Lincoln letter, and then it fades to black. And so I don't know. Why did I bring that up? Would you say right before that? Okay, well, yeah, I just like that. And then he's like, when John Ruth gets you, you hang. And then they hang her in the middle of the whole thing. And it's bloody. She has blood all over her face, right? She has his arm, dangling, the guy she's been chained to, because at this point he's dead. And she had to escape, so she cut his arm off, right? And so she's dangling, the little arms jiggling on the chain, and she's just sitting there and just looking at her, and she's like looking back at them. It's just like such a intense scene, and it's like, it's all gory. It's just cool. Yeah, and
I've seen it on YouTube.
Yeah, I just like the idea of like how it just goes down from this like old legal western to this bloody murder fest.
I like the that sort of, when the hangman's talking about like the difference between frontier justice and, I think he just called the other one justice. So it's like, the difference between them is that I don't really care, and I'm just doing this for a job. And that's that's the difference between everyone just rounding her up and hanging her, and me or like.
Because you can kill her dead or alive. Oh, what?
The government hanging her.
Oh, okay.
I like that little monologue.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And each character, I just love it because they just have so much story. And I don't know, and it's very play-like, and this is where my script idea came from. Was this film? It's just like how you bring stuff in a single room and how things were laid out. The only thing that I really question is that he waited until 2 hours into the film to explain the first half, or the first scene that could have been. Let me explain. So you follow the beginning of the film. You follow Marquez, or the John the Hangman and Daisy Domergue, and then they notice him broken down, right? Mm-hmm. And then they notice the sheriff running for help, right? Then they go to this thing. All this thing happens, right? They're about to literally like shoot the Hangman, Joe Gage, and the Mexican dude. They're all lined up, and he's about to shoot him, and then randomly someone shoots him in the crotch from below the floor. And so, I don't know, and then literally at that point it goes for a minute or two, and then it cuts all the way before they even got there to explain who's in the floor. Does that make sense? When you could have just got that, put that whole, like, it was like 45 minutes, put it in the first 45 minutes, and then go to John Ruth the Hangman's story, and then just play the rest of the movie. Mm-hmm. I just didn't understand why. Like, why wait the entire film? Yeah, I guess, I don't know, because I just like the idea of, like, okay, I'm going to put him in the room, and now the viewers know that he's in there. Everyone knows exactly what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I just like that idea way more than no one knowing completely, then randomly he gets shot in the dick, and 2 hours in he gets shot in the dick, and then you have to watch a whole another hour to find out why. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know, you could just watch the first hour and then the rest of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's kind of a weird way to do it. Because it's supposed to be like set up, tease it, and then something happens.
And then it happens where you get shot in the dick. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it didn't do that at all. It just randomly gets shot in the dick. You're like, wait, what? And then for a whole hour he explains it. And, it's just so cool. I love the movie.
I liked that when they came in the door and
shut the door.
The blizzard blew it open and they're like struggling to fix it. Nobody came and helped them.
Yeah.
And then when they come in, and then later these other guys burst down the door. Yeah. Like, shut the fucking door. Yeah. And they don't even bother to help them with that.
I think it's kind of just comedy. What was I gonna say? Yeah, and you find out it's because they literally, I don't know if you know about it, but in the first hour when you find out someone's in the basement, they literally murder everyone because that's someone's what's her name? Haberdashery. Yeah, Daisy's haberdashery. And so they murder Daisy, they murder her husband, they murder the two workers. And so the reason why it's broken is because they shot some dude through the door and it broke the handle. And yeah, I don't know, it's just so interesting how everything's explained. I don't know, I just really like the movie.
I've seen the clip where they come in and like kill everyone, but I don't really know why they did it.
Well, because they knew Daisy was going to come through with John the Hangman. We don't know how they know. We just know that they knew that they're going to pass by there. But they didn't expect for Major Marquez Warren. They didn't expect for Sheriff of Red Rock. And they did not expect the blizzard. So next thing you know, they're like, holy shit, we're trapped in this cabin. And we have to... The guy in the basement said, Daisy's brother, is like, all we have to do is sit here nice and still, like, until... the time he closes his eyes is when we strike, or something like that. And so that's why if you watch the extended version, she's literally being entirely nice to him. It's so weird. The relationship, the Daisy and John the Hangman's relationship in the film, the regular film, is nothing like the extended version. Because in the extended version, she's like handing him a spoon, like she'll carry 2 spoons and she'll hold it for him, and then like he cleans something off her face. You know what I mean? So it's like this very intimate relationship. And then I was like, is she only doing that because she knows exactly what's going to happen, and she's just trying to be as nice as possible so he can fall asleep and die? You know what I mean? And so that's the visual cues that you get from the extended version. And yeah, I don't know. What else I was gonna say is, I don't know if you got into it, but they literally split the cabin in half at some point, with the south being over there, right, and the north being over there. And then Osberg, the hangman, he was like, and the table will be the middle, and he's like, it'll be Philadelphia, and he yells Philadelphia, and so that's where like the median is, and that's when they go over the Lincoln letter again. And I thought that's where you were, and so they go this. I love this part. So on one end, Major Marquez Warren is sitting there, and on the other end is the racist sheriff, right? And he's like, oh, John Ruth the hangman said you got Marquez, you got a letter for Lincoln. And he goes, he's like, yeah, what about it? He's like, oh, well, can I see it? Like, he's just trying to see it, right? And he's like, no, you cannot. He's like, I don't want your dirty fingers getting all over it. And then he goes, what did he say? I don't know, but he's like, do you really think, because did you know about his history? The black guy's history?
He's like, he was in the army and he just like fucking slaughtered a bunch of people.
He slaughtered a bunch of Southerners, white Southerners, but then he happened to kill a bunch of Northern like militia. You know what I mean? He almost killed just as much Northern militia as Southern military. You know what I mean? And so he wasn't looked at as a hero. You know what I mean? Although he perceives himself as a hero. And so what you find out is that I don't know, he's very presented as this nice guy, but at the end of the film, he's like, Major Marquez, he just hates white people. Period. He just wants to kill white people, and that's all he does. And so it's interesting to see him team up with the sheriff at the end. Why was I mentioning that? Oh, so he's sitting at the table, right? And he's like, John Ruth, you really think a black nigger, right, with a yellow stripe down his back, got a personal letter from the President of the United States or something like that? And he's like, is that true? And so they're kind of like quiet for a second. He's like, no, it's not true. And he's like, turns out the letter's fake. He's like, the only reason why I have the letter is because it disarms white folks like you. He's like, how do you think I got into that the little stagecoach, you know what I mean, to save my life? He's like, you think you were gonna take me in without that letter? And he's like, oh, did I get you upset, John the hangman? And he's like, yes, you did, actually. And it's just so funny, he's like emotional that he lied about the Lincoln letter. And so from that point, he doesn't really like him anymore. But he dies anyway. But he's like, and how they found out is just so funny. And he's like, you were pen pals with the President of the United States. And he's like, He's like, as in dear Major Marquez Warren? No, as in dear Marquise. Like, as in it's like they're friends, you know what I mean? And he's like, really? I just love that scene. He's like, John Ruth, you really believe? Yeah, I just love the way they talk too.
Well, it's fake, then he fucking sells it, apparently.
What?
Because that lady spits on it and he fucking knocks her at the wagon.
Oh, yeah. But what are you saying?
Like, for something that he knows has absolutely no value, and he could just literally write again.
Okay, but it's very important to him because all throughout his life, you know what I mean? Even John has known about it before. Is he's known as a person who has a Lincoln letter. So I think at that point, you know what I mean? But yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
He punches her. Oh yeah, and it's so I love it because he's like, what does he say at the end of that conversation at the dinner table? He's like, oh, I would let a whore piss on the letter, and she's like, I spit on it. He's like, good for you, sister. the woman who's chained. And he's like, good for you, sister. And I just love that conversation.
What you calling it? She gets like more and more fucked up through the movie, doesn't she?
Yeah, and like she like spits her teeth at him and shit like that. It's so funny. Yeah, she's a badass. She's a good actor.
Does she spit on like everything? Because they don't like draw attention to it like they do with the Lincoln letter, but it seems like she spits on like the warrant and like.
Yeah, she does spit on a lot of stuff, but I think because she's just handcuffed, and I think that's kind of her personality. She's supposed to be this kind of ghetto girl too. You know what I mean? Daisy Domergue, the Daisy, or it's Jodie Domingray. What was it?
So
what?
Does he survive being shot in the dick?
We don't know. We just know that they're like hanging out, and then she jiggles and she dies, and they're laying there. The sheriff's on the floor while he's on the bed right there, and he's like, "Can I see the Lincoln letter?" And then like he gets it, and then he just reads the whole letter, and it fades black. So we don't know what happens after that. But yeah, it's very much like a play. I think that's why.
I wonder if that would be because I guess the sort of unity between their characters would be that he hates black people and the other guy hates white people, but they also have like a technique to get people to let their guard down. Because if the sheriff thinks fake, then it serves as a...
Yeah, I didn't think about that. It serves as his Lincoln letter?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't think about that, and that's why they team up at the end?
It sounds like.
Because the only reason...
It would make sense to me, at least.
Well, the only reason why they teamed up is because, what's his name? So they poison the coffee. John the Hangman starts bleeding, throwing up blood everywhere, right? The guy who's the stagecoach driver starts throwing up blood everywhere, and everyone's like, what the fuck is going on? And it's right before the sheriff is about to drink it, and he just sees it and throws it. He's like, what the fuck? And then they start throwing and he's like, the coffee, right? And so that's when Major Marquez lines everyone up, Bob the Mexican, all of them, and then he has Chris Mannix, the sheriff, there, and he's like, Mannix, come over here. He's like, it seems like I only trust you right now. And so he goes over, he gets the gun, and they pointed it against them. And then you find out Senior Bob, right, Mexican. One, the lady who owns Daisy Haberdashery, she hates Mexicans. Like, she had a sign that said, no dogs or Mexicans allowed. And so it's like when he came by, and I don't know if in the beginning, he's like, oh, are you calling me a liar? He's like, no, I'm just saying it doesn't seem like Daisy, you know what I mean? And and you find out, and so he just murders. There's just the one part that you need to get from this is that he kills him, and then he says, four measly bullets and Senior Bob is dead, or something like that, or Senior Bob is gone. And he's like, now that leaves the two of you. He's like Senior Bob was playing the piano, so who poisoned the coffee, right? And so they're like, he's pointing, he's like, if you don't tell me in 2 seconds, I'll shoot the girl, right? And then Joe Gage, the guy who was sitting quietly, he's like, hey, I did it, right? And so what happens? Oh, then that's when he gets shot in the dick, and then they pull out their guns, and it becomes a gunfight, but then they end up killing the other two, and that's why he's shot in the dick. That's why the other sheriff is bleeding, and that's why it's only the girl left. You know what I mean? Then, so this is what I'm kind of just telling you everything. And so they're bleeding out, sort of, and then he's about to shoot her before, like, he says, let's hang her, and he passes out. And so now it's just a black guy who can't walk, period. And the other woman who she can get access to the gun. The only thing that's stopping her is the 300-pound man that she's chained to, that's dead. And so she's trying to drag towards a knife. Oh, he's like, white boy, get up. He's like, get the fuck up. You're not nailed to the ground. And he's like, get up. He's like, Mannix, get up. And she's like running to the knife, and then she cuts his arm off, and that explains why it's cut off. And then he gets up and shoots, or I think he shoots her just to down her, and then they hang her. But yeah, and that's the end of the film. More things to say. Yeah, I don't know. I just really question that part, why he explained it later. I just think that if he explained the first hour was just explaining, I don't think it'd be that interesting. Because they just come in, and they kind of act nice, and then they just murder everyone, and then it fades to black, and then our story continues. So, I don't know, maybe because it made it more interesting.
Actually, I guess if you put that at the beginning, it'd kind of kill the suspense of it all, right? Because you don't really know why.
And also, I do like the beginning of just like, cha-cha, you're just following these guys. You're like, hey, who are these guys? You know what I mean? And just randomly in the middle of the snow. I like that beginning more than, say, if that were to begin as the other one.
Yeah.
It would seem a little bit more amateurish, too. I don't know, that's my only, like, the really thing I'm thinking about. And also the legality thing. How if you rewatch it, they're really working within... I'm trying to think of another scene.
Well, there's also the part where, like, they, like, make each other show papers for everything.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody
there you go. Yeah.
Anything.
He's like, no. He's like, if you're an actual contracted... What's it called?
Bounty hunter?
Bounty hunter. He's like, you're legally required to show, to view on request, you know what I mean? And he's like, how do you know that? He's like, Oswaldo Mowbray, the hangman of these parts. Yeah, I just like the characters. And, where is that going? So yeah, it's weird. I just like that, how they worked with him. Because I feel like that's how, like, the West was. You know what I mean? It's like, they do stuff within the legal bounds. And, like, he didn't shoot the Confederate soldier, right? He gave him a gun, right? He waited for him to pick him up, and then he shot in self-defense. Make sense? Mm-hmm. And so that's why the argument they were having was whether or not that was legal. And Major Marquez knew it was completely legal because he saw him pick up the gun. But it's just interesting that that's another legal thing that they had to debate.
Just the whole setting is very, like, just doesn't exist anymore. Like, it's a cabin in the middle of the woods on a fucking snowy, like...
So, do you know what haberdashery is? A haberdashery? Really. I assume it's just a cabin where people can come in and they get... It's just like that, right? I don't know. I wonder if there's more haberdasheries if it was a thing.
Well, it's just like, these people live in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and their entire life is just serving people that
who pass by.
Yeah, that need to get through.
Yeah.
And all these bounty hunters and shit like that go through all the time.
Yeah.
So they know the staff, like, personally, and they know those people.
And sorry, not to get out. And that's how he finds out that Senior Bob was not there, because he's like, when my mom was a slave or something like that, and she made the best soup. He's like, I ate her stew from when I was a whippersnapper up until I was a full-grown boy. This is a black dude. And he goes, the only person who could make stew just like Mom was Uncle whatever, right? And apparently that's the father of Daisy, and that's why he always goes to eat her stew, because it's the closest thing to his mother's stew. Mm-hmm. And he's like, how can Daisy, who's been gone for a week, make stew this morning? You know what I mean? I know damn well you didn't make that stew. And so it's just like stuff like that lead up to it.
Excellent.
My neck.
Tense. I've been trying to do these fucking...
neck exercises?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Fix my fucked up neck.
Go to a chiropractor. Go to the doctor. Oh, well, you don't have any insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you call it? The other guy who stretches Teresa has been like... She's thought he's stolen from her like 3 times, and then this last time I was in like a totally different room, and like a bunch of 20s just disappeared. So she was like thinking about it, and like I was keeping an eye on it, but at a certain point I had the things over my eye, and I heard him like lean over, so we could have grabbed it then, or when he was leaving, he had a shirt over his shoulder. He's like, and he was gonna go back in the stretch room with the person there. He's like, oh, what are you grabbing? And I grab my shirt.
And he walks out with the shirt?
Yeah. She's like, well, you already have a shirt. And he's like, oh, there's another one or something like that. Okay. So she thinks that when he went in there, that's when he grabbed it. So now I have to do every fucking bit of stretching.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. He's been getting better about it, at least. It's been almost exclusively knees for the last, like, week. So it's like half an hour to an hour instead of fucking an hour and a half of me standing on her while she rambles about some bullshit that I've heard before.
For the 100th time.
Yeah.
Have you been writing anything? Your story?
No.
You've been thinking about it?
Yeah.
What have you thought about?
Well, I've been thinking about random things mostly. Different stuff. I was thinking about I really like the concept of like a superhero, but the point of the comic is that like he doesn't want to be a superhero. He wants to be like a guitar player or some shit like that. So his whole story is about him trying to balance it or just give up on one of them to do the other.
Pretty interesting. That kind of reminds me of the Black Spider-Man. Didn't he not want to be Spider-Man?
I didn't look at any of this.
Oh, well, I think his story's like, oh, Spider-Man's stupid and he hated Peter Parker or something like that. And then Peter Parker dies in the story and somehow he becomes the next Spider-Man or something like that.
Oh.
And, you could read it. For your story, you haven't thought about it before? Because I still think it's interesting the way we've talked about it. It would be interesting to see it as a book. There's this book that I found. I guess this is pertaining to storytelling. So, do you know about the surrealist movement? Not surrealist, but like Salvador Dali and stuff like that?
Like art, surrealist art?
Yeah.
Kinda.
Okay, well, there's surrealist art, but then they did it to music and writing and literature. And it's really interesting because the idea is that surrealism is like, they're like attempting to make something of the subconscious, but then there's like subsets of the surrealist movement where people were just like, they're like, oh, I'm just gonna have my hand on a piece of paper and I'm just gonna let it draw, you know what I mean? And it's called automaticism, in which you let your subconscious, you know what I mean, create the art. And so similar to that, they start doing things, though they would do different ways of, how do I explain it? They had different ways of provoking the subconscious. Make sense? They would do games, right? They would play little games. Or one thing is that for photography, they'd get a photo, they'd cut it into hundreds of squares, right? And they'd just close their eyes and just rearrange them and just make a photo with it. Make sense? And so they just did stuff like that. Or another for literature, they would have poets or whatever, and one poet would just write one line, right? Or he'd write a paragraph, and all the last poet would see the last sentence, and he had to write something after that. Make sense? And so they just have different other things like that. And so talking about the stories, that they have literally an entire book made by 8 people, and like if you could read one sentence, like you're gonna Google it.
Let me see what this message is. Oh, it's
Teresa?
No, it's Walter.
But it's you just need to be able to read one sentence. Yeah, it's just like it's an entire book that makes almost no sense, but like the words make sense, and I don't know. Let me just read it. What do you have to talk about? Is a method of art making in which the artist suppresses conscious control over the making process, allowing the unconscious mind to have great way. Automatic drawing and painting. Where is it? I want to read this so you can understand.
Oh yeah.
What?
Something I was thinking about adding is it'd be another like anomaly, but it'd be after all the old people vanish, there's just like an illness that afflicts some children where they just age rapidly. So I was thinking of having some characters like Little Sister just be like one of those people.
Sorry, excuse me.
So the whole story arc would be like this 6-year-old starts out and then like within like 2 years she dies of old age.
Okay.
So every time you'd see her, she's just older.
Older, yeah.
And you deal with the existential sort of themes of that.
That's it?
Basically.
You're just thinking about it?
Yeah. I was thinking if I make the Hoarder character, or Hoarder's son character, make him have had a little sister that was that, and then she dies, and that's what sort of leads to the fucked up house situation.
Okay.
But then that'd have to be in the past, and there'd be no interaction with that character. It would just be like callbacks to it. But now I'm thinking if I add a second character in where it would be, like I said, one of the other characters, like Little Sister or something like that, has it. That could be a link between the Hoarder kid and whatever character that is.
Okay.
So it's a way to link it up, I guess.
You're just thinking about it?
Yeah.
Oh, they have this game called the Exquisite Corpse, and I just love the idea. It's similar to that writing game, but it's like you have two artists, right? And you draw something on half a piece of paper, and all the other artists can see are the ends of the lines of the other paper. Does that make sense? And they draw something from there. So like there's a photo of like someone drew like hands or something like that, and all you could see are these two lines. Make sense? And someone like drew a body after it. You know what I mean? And so it's called the Exquisite Corpse. And so that's how the surrealists would do subconscious games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find this.
Sounds interesting, but I don't know the word for it. I guess it sounds hacky to me.
What?
Like it's a gimmick.
It is, because like there's this called automatism, and it's like they have this theory, and it's apparently it takes it to the extreme where people are like, is it dying?
It's on 7%.
Alright. Oh, there it started. Where people just take this idea to the crazy extent. I guess I can't find it, which sucks.
I keep fucking yawning. Oh yeah. I had Coke for the first time. That was...
You're a liar.
Nope.
Why did you do that? How was it? Wait, from who?
A certain boss.
Oh.
What you call it? I didn't have a lot. It basically felt like I just drank a couple cups of coffee. Overall, it was not worth it.
Why?
I've heard people talk about how...
Did you do like a little bit?
I did like...
Like, do you know it's a
2
little?
lines.
Oh, God.
Overall, wasn't all that interesting. I could have just taken a bunch of caffeine pills and gotten the same result.
Okay, there, I found it. A typical paragraph in Lechamp's I can't say the real name, is, "It was the end of sorrow lies. The rail stations were dead, flowing like bees stung like from honeysuckle. The people hung back and watched the ocean. Animals flew in and out of focus. The time had come, yet king dogs never grow old. They stay young and fit. And someday they might come to the beach and have a few drinks and a few laughs and get on with it. But not now. The time had come. We all knew it. But who would go first?" Like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Yeah. And apparently it's an entire book like that, made by 8 different poets. And they never saw the last one, or they never saw the next one, you know what I mean? And that's how they wrote the entire book. And apparently it's like a super monumental in the surrealist movement, you know what I mean? And it's just crazy how technically, you know what I mean, it's made completely by the subconscious.
Yeah.
And they did that with drawing, and surrealist art was to like, I heard how explain the surrealist art, but like Salvador Dali and stuff like that.
Yeah. I like I don't know, I haven't really gotten into it like that kind of stuff, but I do very much like surreal art.
The ones you've seen?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are cool.
Just everything like psychedelic and abstract and absurd.
Yeah, they attempted to present the unconscious or something like that. You should just read into it. You might like it. But my ideal, I don't know. I was just really thinking about that. Specifically the exquisite corpse. Because I was thinking, like, because there's something that's sort of been done similar to it, which is Tarantino, him and 4 other directors, right? They made a movie called The Room, or 4 Rooms, right? 4 different directors, 4 different rooms, and it's the Oswaldo Marbury, and that actor who played the diner scene in Pulp Fiction. He's the main lead. He's just a bellboy, and he's just going to 4 different not apartments, hotel rooms, and each hotel room, a story is told from a different director. And all the director knew was like a minute or a page or 2 or something like that before that scene. Does it make sense? So they just got those 2 pages and just start directing the next 20 minutes. Make sense? So it's that sort of exquisite corpse, but I want to take it way more to the extreme than that. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to think how I could translate it to like a film, and see like if I were to bring people, like how would it work? And because I'm thinking, like, say you get like 4 different directors, 4 different drastic styles. You get like Werner Herzog, right? You get like Tarantino. Get me. You throw me in there. I don't know, and just someone else. It would just be so interesting, like, to have the 4 different presentations.
You could have. It wouldn't be as extreme, I guess, but you could have. Like, each person has a character that they write everything for that character, and behind every character is a sort of story arc, but nobody else knows the other's story arc.
Okay.
So everything is purely reactive.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that would be interesting. Like, I give this character the lines and everything, and I'm like, okay, here, go film with them, and they're gonna say their lines, sort of.
Yeah, you'd like write out the dialogue. Well, I guess you'd basically just have to sit down with everyone in that scene, and it'd almost be like a D&D session. He says this, other guy reacts with this, and then just keep going, and everyone is trying to further, I guess, their thing.
That would be interesting. But I'm just thinking about it, how I could do something like that, and if I could do something like that. I just like the idea of it. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, these people must have been, like, hooked, like, on art or something to be able to... Because if you look at the games that they made up, it's like they made hundreds of games. So it's like they must sat around all day in, like, I don't know, a mansion or something, because I'm pretty sure they got rich at some point. Or they're known or something. You know what I mean? So they're just in a big house, and they just sat around, they're like, okay, how can we provoke the subconscious again? And how can we do it in a different way? It just seems like that's all they did all day. And it created this whole movement.
Hell yeah. Ooh. Totally off track, but it's quick. I was trying to find, like, for the van, like, something that would go in one of those windows that would just function as a fan, so that I don't have to like cut a hole in the roof or something.
Like the size of the window?
Yeah, it'd like just slot in, and I could turn it on
something,
and off when I want. But I went on Amazon and I found these. They're like fan things, and what you do is you put them on top of your window and you roll it up.
And you're stuck right here?
Yeah, and you can turn it on, and it'll keep the air inside the van.
Is there solar panels on the outside?
Yes.
Dude.
They don't say to do this, but I was wondering about it, and I went down to the comments, and someone else did it. You just keep them on constantly, and then when the sun comes out, they'll just turn on.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't have to waste battery at night. Well, you get through the battery,
and you can still turn it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then that means I won't have to get any fans or anything like that. Or I won't have to like cut a hole or anything like that.
Yeah.
And that's a solution where I can keep Stubby in the van.
Yeah. Just open the windows, have the open up the little side things, and just roll up these and have them blast in here. Or you should. I'm just trying to think of something way cooler to make it like cooler, like AC or something.
Well, the people in the comments were saying like it's very effective. Like they'll come back to their car and it's totally like room temperature.
Damn, I might want one because I kind of like the idea. Room temperature.
Yeah.
Is it like a van life people? Is it like van life people to like, this is amazing, it changed my van life?
No, it's just people that like they go to like the store or something like that and they just turn it on.
Oh yeah. Well, you gonna buy like 10 of them? How much are they?
I think they were like $20. I'll probably buy like 2.
Yeah.
I found out why my fucking van always smells like smoke.
Cause you smoking it?
like fume smoke.
Oh, what?
Apparently, the windows on the back of the van, the way they're built, if you keep them open while you're driving, the exhaust gets shot in.
Oh, so it's just poor design.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense.
I gotta make sure to close those from
when
now
you're driving?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I thought there might be like a leak in the van or something like that, or in like the.
Well, you would smell it when you're asleep.
Huh?
You'd smell it when you're asleep.
Well, the van's not on while I'm asleep.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that if it was leaking, when you're sleeping, you'd probably like, holy fuck, you know what I mean? If it was only driving, then it makes sense that it was the window being open and the exhaust fumes getting inside.
Well, if it was leaking out of the compartment, it would only be while the engine's running anyway.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I figured out
solution.
Yeah, because I had to keep like the windows open and shit like that. Like I ain't fucking with no fumes.
And this goes on to a whole changing stuff completely. I'm thinking about like when we were at Gordon's house and writing a movie about that. Just these boys who are hanging out at the house. I don't know. I was just thinking about that, and then I was thinking, I'm like, oh, what if I put this character who drives a van, and that he lives in the house. It's basically what you're doing at Hate It. So imagine Gordon's setup, like the way you had it, but I split the room with you. You didn't sleep in the room. This is the story. And that you slept in the van, and that you would just kind of, your storage was in there, you would shower, just like what you're doing with Hayden. And so that's kind of the idea I had, and I don't know what the boys are going to do. I don't know what's going to happen. But I really want to show that, like, this kind of, like, not desolate, but, like, this completely, like, these boys are doing nothing, basically. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. And I was just thinking about it, and just that, because you brought up the van, and just having this van character.
I really like I was thinking about the, like, feel of Oceanside at night. I really like it. Just, like, you drive around and there's just, like, people go into, like, liquor stores and shit like that, and people stopping at 7-Eleven to get, like, a soda at 2
And it's not completely dead, but it's just dead enough, you know, where there's people around, but it's, like, still dead.
Yeah. And then there's just fucking crackheads.
Yeah, just walking around.
I was thinking about that one time where we had the jar bong, and I just handed it to some guy.
Yeah, I was like, what I wasn't upset, but I was like, what the fuck are you doing, Adam? Don't do that. So you let him hit it? Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Because I remember, I didn't think he was like a crackhead until I like saw him pump on that.
Yeah, that's what I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I was just like, it's my weed. I don't want to give people my weed. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I didn't know up until the point where I saw him sucking on it. Where
you're like, oh fuck. Yeah, and I guess talking about Oceanside, you know the Oceanside film that I was writing for a while? I've been thinking about it more and more, and I know how I'm not going to change it. It's still going to be the whole Pulp Fiction, jumping through different stories. But I think I have a better grasp on how I want to present it. And I've been just thinking about it more and more and finishing it. I've been just thinking about it. And I want, just like how you're seeing, I want to show that. I want to show the homeless people, I want to show the crackheads, and show the people going to drugstores.
Mm.
And just show the Oceanside atmosphere. I was just thinking about it recently, too. Oh, speaking of that, yeah, so just literally last night, my mom came back from San Francisco. She came back a little later. And she came out, she drove here, or she came from the airport, so she flew, and then she drove with my aunt, and she was dropping her off, right? And she was getting her luggage out. And a crackhead, like, my mom doesn't know what he was just like, I forgot what he was screaming, but he was screaming like, oh, I'm looking for something like that. And my mom's like, what the fuck? And she's trying to, like, I think she said she went up to, I didn't go outside, but she said she went up to him, and my dad went outside. He's like, what the hell is he yelling at? And it's just a thing in Oceanside, you know what I mean? Especially where I'm located, it's not really tucked away.
Some guy was like yelling across the street at me. Oh, I remember.
When you were there?
I was at your house, and Walter's like, Walter wanted some company. So I'm like, fuck it, you want to go to the beach?
Mm-hmm.
And so we drove down to the beach, and we walked to the pier.
Hold on, do you say bye to the dogs?
Huh?
Do you say bye to the dogs? What is it?
I like petted them and shit like that, but...
You have to say bye, that's how they... Sorry.
I might have. But it's not something I consciously did. But while we were walking, we walked by that underpass where people, like, homeless people sleep.
Yeah. When we got smoked that one time?
Yeah, and there's this guy, like, fucking yelling.
Yeah.
And I remember walking by with Walter, just, like, averting a gaze.
Yeah.
And it's always the question of, like, is that a crazy person or someone that's angry on the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was crazy because it looked like he was, like, yelling at us.
And he was under a bridge?
He was outside of it, but
No.
we didn't, like, go to the underpass. It was just outside.
Yeah, you're walking by or something?
Those sculptures there. I think there's sculptures at least.
Yeah, I don't know. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I really do wish that they'd build something more Oceanside culture, like a skate park or something like that, instead of another big fucking apartment building.
Yeah.
And it gets filled with a bunch of yuppies again.
That's why I have a plan. Once I become rich, I'm gonna put something in Oceanside. I don't know. I'll make Oceanside interesting. I know the film festival, I know I'm gonna put a bunch of money into that just so I can have my name on it, you know what I mean? Because I just like the idea of someone like, who's Kalub? And they look me up and it's like, oh, he's lived here all his life and he became rich from his film and now he owns part of the Oceanside. You know what I mean? I just like the idea. And then also I want to put money into the old movie theaters and just like make them new, you know what I mean? And just have them present movies because they you can rent them out and stuff like that, but no one uses them. They're only used for plays and smaller stuff, you know what I mean? So yes, I would like to put some type of community here if I become rich.
You should buy the amphitheater lot and rebuild it.
Maybe. Because I like the way it looks. I like how it looks fucking old. Mm-hmm. And how it looks like it's from the 80s and 70s. Have you watched the video of Rodney Mullen there? Mm-hmm. I think I've already told you. You don't know who Rodney Mullen is, right? Mm-hmm. He's invented every flat ground skateboarding technique you can think of. The kickflip, the ollie, pop shove or whatever, yeah. And so during the height of his career, he was practically going all over the country he was winning literally every single tournament he went to, period, because he was just doing shit. People were like, what the fuck is he doing? Because people would just go on the little skateboards and they'd do their spins. Have you seen that? Well, there's four wheels. They'll go like this, and they'll be standing on it, and they'll spin on the back two wheels like that, and they'll go super fast like a ballerina. And so they did stuff like that. They, I don't know, it just wasn't what skateboarding is. That's how it was in the 70s. And so when he came up doing all these competitions, he was winning all of them. So there's one in Oceanside, and it shows the amphitheater. It shows all of it full. There's people all over, and he's just skating, doing all his ollies and stuff like that. People are like, woo! And it's just interesting. It's Oceanside in the 80s. Yeah. It looks exactly the same, pure everything. You know what I mean? It hasn't aged. That's what I really like about Oceanside, is that like that part specifically is just like it's trapped in the 80s, like the 70s, 80s.
Or even earlier?
Even earlier, yeah. But then all the buildings and stuff like you said are coming. We're almost done, so it doesn't matter. We got 5 minutes.
Really?
I started thinking about this other script too. It's supposed to be, I don't know, because I've been watching a lot of French New Wave again, and so I'm just watching them, kind of getting inspired. And I thought of this. It's an oceanside film, right? And it's just simply this couple, and you're following this couple in their day in Oceanside, and they're just having a date, sort of like the other film, but this is the entire film. And the idea, it seems so. I'll explain in a second. So the way Godard, the French filmmaker, did his movies is that they're very emotional in his first couple of movies, and then his other movies were very political. And his political way, he was known as how do I say? People just said yeah, you're a fascist, basically, because he's like, oh, once I found out the history of film was for the bourgeois, I hated film and blah blah blah. And this guy who's known for innovating film, so it's just interesting the way he said that. And so he hates the bourgeois, he's all about socialism and all this stuff, and it's all present in his films. And I thought it would be interesting to do basically one of his love art films, but instead, because he talks about socialism, and he talks about the bourgeois, and he talks about the oppressed, and he talks about all these things in his film. And I thought it'd just be interesting to do an American version of that, where socialism isn't ever brought up, but the freedom of speech is brought up, you know what I mean? And this sort of art French love film where all these American ideals are being talked about during their date, you know what I mean? And that's kind of the idea behind it. And what was it? Oh, it was from Easy Rider. I think I told you about it. It's the film is completely B-roll. It's just simply these two bikers, right? They get somehow they get a good deal on cocaine, right? And they know that if we sell these 2 pounds of cocaine to these other people, we'll get 300% profit, right? And that's the whole thing, is that they drive from one end of the country to the other to deliver it. And on the way, they find Jack Nicholson, and he dies, and all the other things happen. But I'm pretty sure 60% of that film is just them on a motorcycle driving. And you just see these beautiful American Western landscapes, Utah, Nevada, and all these desolate roads, and just America, the whole Western expansion of America. And that's all you see for I'm pretty sure 60% of the film. It's a lot of it. So I call it a B-roll film, because B-roll is just those cinematic shots. That's what B-roll is. So I call it a B-roll movie. So I thought it would be interesting to take that concept, this whole American Easy Rider B-roll film, and then put it with this French Godard, instead of socialism, American ideology art film. You know what I mean? So now just imagine a bunch of beautiful B-roll shots of the beach, or over here and stuff like that. Just them driving or something, and just moving shots or something. You know, anything. Just think of, or the wind's blowing in the trees or something like that. And they're saying not poetry, but the poetry is similar. It's similar to Godard, the way he wrote, but instead of talking about socialism, the poetry is American-esque, you know what I mean? And that's just kind of the idea I have. And I was just thinking about it. And so I guess my question is for you, is what is just a normal thing you just do in Oceanside? That is only really to Oceanside?
The bike path.
Why? Because it goes through all Oceanside?
Yeah, you just kind of get on it. If you want to go to the beach, you can just grab a skateboard, get on the bike path, and book it right the fuck there.
Oh, that would be interesting. Because the idea I have is that every time they get in the car, how do I say this? You know how sometimes we're driving, and we won't say a word, but I'll be like, oh, look at the person over there, or something like that. It's because I don't know, there's nothing, we're going from my house to your house, something like that, and there's not really much to say on the way there. You know what I mean? It's not I don't know, but you know what I mean? That's how a conversation is in the car with someone you're comfortable with. You know what I mean? So when they get in the car, I imagine scenes like this where it's sort of like that, but I'm never showing them in the car. I'm just showing these beautiful B-rolls of Oceanside where they're kind of talking, and you just overhear their conversation as you know they're driving because you're watching the motion, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then they get to their destination. Make sense? But there's a couple of minutes of these super beautiful B-rolls of Oceanside. They're talking artistic. I remember he says, because I started sort of writing it. He says, oh, how's your father, right? And then she goes, she's like, he goes, how are your parents? And she goes, my mother's all right. And he goes, what about your father? And he's like, oh, he's doing better. And then he goes, because I'm trying to insinuate that he's sick, you know what I mean? And he goes, she goes, oh, he's doing better. And he goes, that's terrible. And she's like, why is that terrible? He's like aging. Because, you know what I mean? It's sort of like he's just trying to say that, like, he wants to be young and that it sucks that he's dying and growing old. It's just supposed to be arty. And all that's going on in the scene are just rolling shots. And you just hear this conversation. And then they get to their next destination. You know what I mean? So it's this art type of style. And then, like, I'm talking about other things. I don't have it yet, but that's kind of the general idea. So now that I'm thinking is that if I don't do it in the car, like I said, like that, they could be on a bike, and then the B-roll shots would be them riding on a bike on that bike path. I'm just thinking, so what? I don't know, because the idea is that they're going to have a picnic, right? And then I get to put them in a park that I like, you know, that I like, and they get to sit in the middle of the park, and they have a beautiful romantic picnic where some of my opinions get crossed, and then something else happens. So I'm thinking, what? They get on the bike path and they're like, hey, we want to ride the bike to the beach or something. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to think how I could put it in.
We could have, because, like, on that bike path, there is just sort of destination.
On the way.
Yeah, on the way. Like, you could have them start, I guess, like, at the beginning. Where does the bike path end?
Pretty far. You know where you would get on by the school?
Yeah.
By Cedar Travis and stuff like that?
Yeah.
If you follow, where does it keep going? Yeah, it ends somewhere, but it ends. There's a school, and if you go behind the school, you'll see where it ends. I don't know. I'm trying to describe where it is.
Because I know it goes. The farthest I've gone is college, and then I always get off there.
Yeah.
So I don't know how far.
Yeah, the other way it goes. Yeah, it stops behind a school, I'm pretty sure. Oh, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't think it does. Because remember when we were at Mel Bishop that one time, and Mel Bishop is the one by 7-Eleven? 7-Eleven, Vandergrift, Douglas.
The one we always go to?
Yeah, by Gontas. You go down that road and there's that one school, and we flew the drone that one day.
Oh, yeah.
And we noticed. Did I tell you about the guy under there smoking?
Yeah. I remember you like flew down, you flew up, and you told me about like 2 minutes later.
Yeah. So yeah, over there, I think you remember on that road, that bike on the right. I don't know if you can see it. That's still the bike trail. I don't know if you see the big dirt pile up, and it kind of gets. It's just right there on the road on the right. So that's the bike trail, and it keeps going off that road. So I don't know how. Actually, I've never done that. It probably goes all the way to, like, where Bart's house is. You know what I mean? It ends there. I don't know.
Okay. Well, anyway.
They start on the bike path.
Yeah, I was gonna say start at college, but I don't know if there's anything behind that.
Yeah.
But if you start on college and you go down, on the left there's a path through the river that goes up to is it Vandergrift?
Maybe, I don't know.
Whatever's across the North River, or the it's not the Shenandoah. What is that river called?
San Luis Rey?
San Luis Rey. Yeah.
It's across it?
So there's a path by that park where...
Oh, yeah, I know.
If you come at a certain time, you'll see kids just, like, cross across the path and disappear into the fucking woods.
Yeah.
And it goes to the thing. So you could have something there. when you get to the underpass, there's like that rocky area under it where you could do something. There's Paris. There's that wall next to Paris that's on the bike path. You go by the swap meet.
And then you go by the beach, or then you go by the medium place where you follow the water, and then you go to the beach. I don't know. I'm just thinking. I want to put it in. Oh! Okay, that's easy. Do I get rid of the car? Because my idea is that they're driving and then there's those B-roll shots of it. Makes sense? But say I get rid of that completely, and then they decide, let's ride our bikes to the beach, right? And then it's simply the beginning, the first 20 minutes is just like a montage of them riding through. Makes sense? And they talk and stuff like that. And the rest of the film is them walking near the beach, like doing other stuff at the beach. I don't know, I'm just thinking. I don't know how I want to do it. But I might put it in. What else? But what else was a normal thing a couple would do? Like, I'm thinking you'd walk on the pier, you'd go, you know what I mean? You'd go towards the water. But something, it's like, you can't just film this in LA or New York City, you know what I mean? It has to be in Oceanside.
I don't know if the jetty's specific to Oceanside, but that's...
Oh, I said the pier, because I think the pier is more specific.
There's just when you get near the river by the ocean, it just smells like shit.
Yeah. That would be cool. I also want to show the Broken Down School by Gantas. What could they do there?
Smoke weed.
No, because I have the ideas that the picnic is going to be like not a significant scene, but because I guess that's the scene where it's like, oh, he's trying to sort of be like Godard. Does it make sense? They'll watch the scene, they'll be like, oh, this sort of reminds me of French New Wave Jean-Luc Godard. And so I have this idea where they have their picnic and they smoke cigarettes and they drink wine and stuff like that. And it's very romantic. They're like handing each other, they're sharing cigarettes and stuff like that. And they're talking about certain topics. I don't know what topics, but that's the whole point, is they'd be talking about this poetry, American politics topics. And why was I bringing that up? So yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I guess they could smoke weed later, but I already have the idea that they're smoking earlier. You know what I mean? And what? They're like, oh yeah, you want to go smoke before you go home or something? And then she's like, yeah, or something. Because we're not mainly following the boy, but I guess we're following them equally, but it's like, the film starts off with the boy, and he's talking about how, he's like, oh, I'm gonna hang out with my girl. This is what I wrote, is that he has a bowl of water, like a straight razor, and he's outside, and he puts like a mirror down, makes sense? And he's just shaving with the bowl of water, cleaning it off. And I just like the idea he's outside shaving, you know what I mean, with a mirror. And he's just talking to him. And then I envision it in my backyard. So like the chickens are running around in the background. And he's shaving. He's like, hey, let's smoke today. Or something like that. His friend. And he's like, no, I can't hang out with my girl, blah, blah, we're going to go do this and do that. And I know what I'm trying to say, it starts off with the boy. So you sort of get the sense that he's the main protagonist, but you're following both of them. What could happen? Like, it'd be easy to put a crackhead. But what would he do? Or what's an interaction? I don't know. I've been just thinking about it. I had another idea here. We're almost out of time too. Or we are out of time, but let me tell you about my other idea. Oh, I think I told you about this. Born to Run. It's a book that Steven was telling me about, and apparently sort of like the Filipino people who can swim really well because they're well adapted. Apparently this tribe, all they do is they run up and down a hill, right? And their whole community is around training these people to run. So it's not that they're superhuman, it's just that they run so much that their lineage can literally run longer than a normal human. Does it make sense? And so that's kind of the whole story, or the book, is that you follow this, you see their kind of lifestyle and how they run up and down hills and how they teach their little kids to run and stuff like that. And that's all they do is they just run up and down a hill to train and stuff like that, and then they'll run and do other stuff. But the whole point of their community is they run. And so I thought it would be interesting to have a film like that, where this like character just follows these guys who just, this tribe that just runs up and down a hill. And say it's not even a tribe, say it's 21st century and it's a group of boys who hate the internet or something like that, and they're just what?
You could do... I was thinking about Americana earlier. You could follow, like, dirtbags.
Okay.
You know what I mean by them? Like gutter punks, dirtbags.
Like, no, not really. Like punks?
They're basically hobos, but they're like 20-year-olds that just really don't want to...
live life?
They don't want to live like a normal life.
Okay.
They hop trains and they just go around everywhere.
Okay.
And
their thing is they like running?
We just sort of follow that sort of lifestyle. That... I think that's... I've never heard of, like, that sort of group of people in any other country.
Yeah.
It's very much a American culture thing.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to smash the two?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Yeah, but I'm just thinking about just, like, following the story where these people enjoy running up and down a hill. And I was just thinking about it. And I was thinking, I just remember, like, I have a specific scene that I thought of so far. Like, they're, like, talking about shoes and which shoes are the best shoes. Because apparently the people who run in the village, they do it barefoot. And that's, like, that's where it comes from, is because their feet are different, their legs are different from the direct contact to the floor and stuff like that. And that's how they evolved, or something like that. And I just need to read a book. I was just thinking about that. It would be interesting to have it as these, like, train hoppers, and, like, that's how they get away from the police and stuff like that. I don't know. With that being said, we're done with the podcast. Do you have something to say?
Fuck, I did, but I forgot it. We were talking about something and it reminded me.
People running up and down a hill? Gutter men, whatever you call them.
It had something to do with that, yeah.
Now, I also still want to make my whole B-roll film, my whole B film that's sort of like Kung Fu Hustle. And I haven't thought about it at all. And I think it would be pretty easy because I just want the most stereotypical story, but I want it my own way. A lot of blood, a lot of violence.
I don't think this is what I was thinking about, but it's something. I was talking to Molly a couple nights ago.
I thought you haven't talked to her in a while. On and off?
Yeah, I've seen her on the server a couple times, but we haven't really done anything together.
Oh, isn't she writing a book or something?
She wrote it, now she works as a librarian.
How'd that go?
Oh,
she didn't say.
So I started the conversation. She told me that she was a librarian. And then, like, way later in the night, I'd gotten fucked up on the wax pen and the whiskey.
Okay.
And she, like, texted me. I'm like, if I don't respond to this, I'm gonna forget. This is just gonna disappear forever.
Of course, he tried responding and it was fucked up or something?
Yeah.
You said something about it, or is it illegible?
It was... Pull it up. So I'm trying to remember what I said. But, like, after I sent it, I'm like, that sounds kind of fucking weird. And then just the way she responded to it, I was like, oh, God.
Well, how was it? What was it? It couldn't have been that weird, because I don't think you purposely tried to say anything weird. Like, I could, for me, because you're high and drunk, you know, I could see why you could mess it up. I don't think it could be that weird. I think honesty would help this situation. Just say, hey, I was drunk and high, I didn't mean to say that. Has she not responded yet or something?
Yeah, she never responded.
Oh, great. So what did you say?
Reading it doesn't... I don't know why I thought it sounded so bad. It was... Like, what are the actual main duties of a librarian? Like, putting away books? She's like, issuing books, returning books, shelving books, maintaining displays, creating posters, flyers, brainstorming workshops, and various other filing duties.
Sounds boring.
And she makes tea for her colleagues. And I said, I've always wondered, do people try to pass out in libraries, like homeless people? And
she hasn't said anything?
And she said no with a question mark. I've seen a few people sleeping, but as long as they do not bother anyone, they are fine. But where I live, there aren't many homeless people, so I don't know if this is an issue elsewhere. But certainly not for our library. Though we get a few teenagers trying to get it on in the less than visited corners of the library sometimes. I said, how does that usually conclude? So reading it back, I don't think it was all that weird.
No, it isn't. Because it just seems like normal talk. Or not even normal talk, just because curiosity, I guess.
Yeah.
And she didn't reply?
Nah.
I could see why, I guess. But then, I don't know, if you want to talk to her again, I would just clear it up, be like, hey, I didn't mean to say anything. It just say I was drunk and high. If that came out weird, I didn't mean it to be weird.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to bother anymore. She doesn't bother to, like, talk to me, so I think at this point she's just humoring me.
Why? What do you think? Because you guys are pretty decent friends, right?
Yeah.
She just moved on?
She got busy with other stuff, and then when she came back to the server, she had...
Wasn't the same.
Well, I tried to, like, rekindle some kind of, like...
Friendship?
Yeah, friendship, but she's like, oh, I have a character, doing other stuff, da-da-da-da. And finally I just stopped asking, and then... Now, I figured I'd reach out, and she's not really...
showing any difference.
Yeah.
Let's get through this bowl. Yeah, and I guess the same thing is happening with Godwin. Is that I keep trying to be his friend, and he's just not being a good friend. So I'm not gonna really be his friend anymore. I'm basically doing I did what you did, and then now I'm doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Speaking of that,
Well, you talked to you recently?
Did I talk to you about us all going to a bar?
Oh, yeah.
Bart wanted to wait until classes were over, so if you want to do it, we'd probably do it soon.
Once again, I already told you I don't want to do it. But if you said, Caleb, I'd want you to come to this, I'll be like, okay. If you're saying, Caleb, would you like to come? I'm going to say no. But if you're like, Caleb, can you join me? I'll be like, okay.
Okay. I don't know if I'm even going to bother.
I wouldn't. I don't doubt he cares.
I wonder why they just... Both of them just, like, fucked off. They don't care anymore.
Means nothing. Yeah, we can wrap up the podcast now. Last... Oh, I have to get my speech ready. This is story time with Adam and Kalub. This week we watched Hateful 8. Any last words, Adam?
It looked good from what I saw.
What you saw?
Yeah.
I really think you should finish it. I really think you'd like it. One, I think I like the idea of, like, oh, if I want to make a British character from the West, I'm probably going to steal that character. Make sense? Because they're just so individual.
I love that character.
The hangman, the British guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's so funny. That's why when he says Philadelphia, when he's like, that'll be the north side, that'll be the south side, and the table will be Philadelphia. I don't know. He's just, the way he acts is just so funny. And, well, he's Philadelphia. And he's like, the nigga? Because he has a British accent. The nigga has a letter from Abraham Lincoln? Like that. Like, it's just so funny.
What you call it? Because he did the character so well, that's why I also thought he was the guy from the Django.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was gonna be here. When they were both the same person, I was very enjoying of that
actor,
fictional actor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and so even going into Django Unchained, they're starting to say that Django is Marquess Warren like years later, because his takes place during the slave time, and theirs takes place right after the Civil War. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's technically within the same time period. He's older now, you know what I mean? At the end of Django Unchained, he was basically a murdering white dude. The way Tarantino described him is like, I finally wanted to give the black community like a black cowboy. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. Instead of the cowboy killing a bunch of Mexicans and other cowboys, it's killing a bunch of white people. And it's during the slave time. And so it's just interesting. I don't really see it, you know what I mean? But I could see why people would want to connect the characters. Yeah.
That reminded me of a comedian I was watching. He did his whole thing, and he was like, I had a dream that I was a slave on a camp, and basically the gist of the dream.
Black?
Yeah.
Okay.
The gist of the dream was that he was doing, like, he was just, like, the worst slave. Like, they put him out in the field and he just kept, like, complaining and he wasn't very good at it. So they put him in the house and he couldn't read and he'd fuck up all the dishes and shit like that. And then they finally just sent him to go do some bullshit job and he fucked that up. And then at the end of the thing, the slave master just comes up to him. He's like, look, I gotta tell you, I don't know what the fuck to do with you. You're free to go.
Oh, I think he kills him. Like, imagine he just murders him like an animal. He's like, I don't know what the fuck to do with you. Like a horse with a broken leg.
Yeah.
And he just lets him go. That what have you watched? I don't know if you watched the Golf Wings TV show, but they're auditioning for 12 Years a Slave, and there's this guy named I forgot, Taco, I think. Oh, no, he's one of just from Odd Future, and he's not a rapper. He's just like one of their friends, and he's like picking cotton like softly, you know what I mean? Not like a slave. And he's like, ooh, like it poked him, and he's like, oh, don't whip me, like he's being like a shitty slave. And then another guy, there's a cotton thing, right? And he's just standing next to. He's like, I would be a house slave. He's like, I wouldn't be outside. He's not fitting cotton, and he just cuts the different Odd Future characters to the auditioning for 12 Years a Slave. It's just so funny. I would be a house slave, or I'd be a house bitch or something like that. It's just so funny. Anyways, with that being said, this is story time with Adam and Kalub. Last words? That was the last words?
Yeah, we do last words again. It's going to be another tangent.
Alright, we'll see you guys later. Go watch Hateful 8. Bye-bye.
See ya.